I've held off on publicizing these truths because paganism itself seems to be on a low ebb, and out of consideration for the feeling of others, primarily my girlfriend. However, given that the United States and Canada are suppressing scientific thought, humanity's need for something to believe in demands that the gap be filled, and it would be a shame if the Western world became burdened with superstition out of that need to fill that gap. Plus, I'm a little angry about life in general lately, so here goes. I'd like to address today the topic of Wicca, the wise craft, Wicca, basically the worship of the natural world. And religion in pre-Roman times was a matter of keeping the supernatural forces which influenced your life happy and hoping they wouldn't notice you. It wasn't worship, not as we think of it. It was appeasement, pure and simple. Emphatically, the Western world endured two forces which were guaranteed to eliminate a heretical thought: the Roman Empire and the Inquisition. I suppose they all come from the same source, but whatever. The Romans regarded non-Roman thought, which was heresy as far as they were concerned, as political insurrection, and dealt with the faithful murderously effectively as revolutionaries. A lot of neo-pagans denounce the Christians, but their experience under the Romans is well known, isn't it? We call it the Bible. Whatever you might think of the Bible, that's their experience under the Romans. The Inquisition dealt specifically with non-Christian thought, again, murderously effectively, sometimes horrifically. The Inquisition was not a nice bunch of people, but they dealt with things very, very effectively. Calling the Inquisition the Burning Times is like saying there was a formalized campaign against Wicca, which there was not. Not once in all the records of the Inquisition, and they are exhaustive, the Inquisitors were as bad as the Nazis for keeping records, for God's sake. And there's no mention of neo-pagan thought. In fact, the Inquisitors, well, I hate to say this, but they were a horny bunch of bastards, and they were more interested in seeing people in flagrante delicto than in anything else, okay? Between treating non-Roman thought as a political insurrection and expunging all non-Christian belief, the Roman Empire and the Inquisition guaranteed that nothing would survive. So there was no Wicca tradition. Modern Wicca, or witchcraft or wisecraft, how they're more wise than I am shall forever remain a mystery. Aleister Crowley, Dorian Valente, and especially Gerald Gardner created it all. It is beyond a doubt that elements of pre-Roman Western European folkloric practices survived in the modern day, but so have elements of Greek, Arabian, and Germanic folklore, to name but three. We all have our superstitions. We all have little bits and pieces that help us get through it, if you will. And there's no reason to think that Roman thought excluded pre-Roman thought of Celtic, Germanic, or any other origin. Almost all Wiccan rituals are either the outright creation of Aleister Crowley or Gerald Gardner's interpretation of Crowley's rituals. And he used them in the Temple of Thelema and elsewhere. Wicca owes more to Aleister Crowley than to anyone else. Okay? Crowley, and he was an old lecher, called variously Great Beast 666 or the wickedest man in the world, created a large portion of Wicca as a way to meet girls. What sort of a person creates a whole religion as a way to meet girls anyway? What's that all about? Sky-clad faithful are very tempting, especially when your libido is in overdrive, as was the case with Crowley and with Gardner, I might add. Okay? Devotees of Wicca can call themselves witches or warlocks now that the last of the draconian anti-witchcraft laws have been repealed. And those titles are fair game now. Wicca has its official beginning when the last of those laws were repealed in the 1800s. Not before then, not anything of the sort. Wicca isn't ancient. Dark Wiccan puts it best. Wicca is a modern religion which began in the 1940s. It is considered a revival of ancient traditions. The ancient traditions are like the creation myth. People today take that myth literally. And how often today are we seeing people taking creation myths literally anyway? They want to believe that Wicca is an ancient religion, and so many refuse to accept it as otherwise. There is no systemized belief or practice of pre-Roman, pre-Christian religion of European origin. The systemized practice of any non-Christian religion in Europe dates to the activities of Gerald Gardner and Aleister Crowley when the last of the anti-witchcraft laws in Great Britain were repealed, not to pre-Roman times. Okay, when pre-Roman folk traditions survive, they are not, nor have they ever been, the basis for any religion. The pre-Roman gods and spirits were feared and appeased, not worshipped. People did not love any of the supernatural spirits that shaped the world around them. They hoped to be ignored by these transhuman entities. They didn't worship them. They offered up sacrifices of various sorts to appease them, not to make nice with them. Okay, so Wicca isn't ancient. Wicca isn't a pathway to knowledge. It's one more system that people cleave to, and that's it. You know, so don't think that by being Wiccan, being religious, you're more enlightened than I. You're no more, no less in tune, if you will, than I am. Maybe what you believe gets you through it, and I'm not about to argue with that. But what I am about to argue with is your feeling that you have a pathway to knowledge that I don't. We're all equally wise. We're all equally, some of us more wise than others, I suppose. But we all have equal access to wisdom and to knowledge. Thank you.